welcome to the Hockey Hour. I'm Matt, here with Connor and Steve, and we're going to be talking all things hockey. I guess first thing on our agenda is talk about the Leafs and the recent news that we heard that Shanahan has been authorized to give us a Leafs rebuild. What, Steve, start off with your thoughts about that?
You know, I like the move, but personally I felt like all we needed was a retool. I felt like we had the pieces to make a playoff push. All we needed to do was retool. When we got rid of Carlisle, we needed to make a trade then and there. Horacek isn't getting it done. Shanahan realized this. He just secured his job for another 3 years, in my opinion.
You know, I honestly think that the rebuild should have happened 5 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
In the Brian Burke era, it should have happened, and it didn't. He wanted to take the fast track by trading away his 2 first-round picks. Sure, we got Kessel, but, that's another story. We need to rebuild. I honestly think we need to rebuild. Build around the tools that we have now. Get rid of the older players. Get rid of all the cap. Just rebuild through the draft.
Yeah.
And I think that the big problem with the Leafs is that even when we're trying to have a rebuild year, they lose a bunch of games. Okay, we'll do a rebuild year this year, and then near the end of the season, they have this huge push for the playoffs, which by then it's already too late, and they've already screwed themselves.
Yeah, it's the same thing every single year. We move up the standings, and then we fall back down, and next thing you know, we get a 10th round or 10th overall pick.
Yeah, which is not cutting it.
No, we need a top 5 pick. Look at Morgan Riley. He was a top 5 pick, and he looks to be a future stud on this team.
He's the untouchable. In my opinion, he is the only untouchable on this team right now. Everyone else, I think, has a target on.
If you got fair value back for certain players, yes, I could say that he would be the only untouchable. There's harder players to move that this team still needs.
For sure.
Yeah.
So
players that are going to be a lot tougher to replace, as in JVR is a hard guy for me to want to get rid of, seeing as how he's had his best point production as a Maple Leaf in his career.
Agreed. He's a former 2nd overall pick.
Yeah.
He was picked right behind Kane.
Yeah.
He's got skill. He's a big winger.
He's got size.
Yeah, and that's tough to come by. I mean, you look out on the trade market right now, Chris Stewart's the only other one out there, and he's nowhere near James Van Riemsdyk.
He's a third liner.
No. Yeah, so JVR, he is completely... To me, he's one of their core players that they should build around. Him, Morgan Riley.
Unless you get more than what you should get for JVR. If you cannot bring in more than what that guy is worth, you can't move him.
No, exactly. I mean, you think we gave up Luke Shen to get JVR. That we would have to get... I honestly think we would probably be looking at a high, top 10, top 15 first-round pick for this year in a deep draft, a high-end prospect, and maybe another pick or another current roster player to fill the void.
Yeah, fill the void.
At least for JVR.
Yeah.
Those big wingers are tough to come by.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
It's kind of reversing this, since you guys are talking about who they can't really move. Who do you guys think are the most likely players on the Leafs that we're going to probably get moved?
Well, Franzen. Franzen's got to be the number one. I mean, he's a right-hand defenseman. People want him. Teams want him. Teams like Detroit looking to get that right-hand defenseman. He's a big target out there right now. They got other players like Santorelli, Winnick, who are obviously on the way out. They've said that Kessel and Phaneuf aren't in their future plans. I don't think that happens soon. I think that's you
might see that more at draft day.
Yeah.
A draft day push to maybe move up in the draft if we don't like where we're at.
You never know. Jack Eichel, he's a generational talent. Maybe a player like Phil Kessel would swing the deal.
Yeah, exactly.
To get that.
You could see a Phil Kessel, alongside a first or a second or even a prospect. Look to see Phil Kessel be that piece, because Phil Kessel's 30-goal scorer. He's I believe it's second in the league for right wingers over the past 3 or 4
It's something
seasons.
like that. It's up there. He's up there for sure.
Behind Alexander Ovechkin.
Yeah.
And he's one of the premier scorers when he gets it done.
He's one of the Leafs' best pure goal scorers in a long time.
I say the best in...
You would probably have to go back Alexander McGillney to find a better pure goal scorer.
Yeah.
He does not have a complete game.
No.
That's
But that's never why we acquired him.
We got him to score goals, and he's done that. He's done a great job. The slump he's in, he's always been a streaky player. You never know.
We're just noticing it because of the losing streak that's accompanied by it, and it's bigger. It's bigger than the forwards.
Mm-hmm.
The losing streak right now is bigger than the forwards. It's the defense. It's the defense combined with goaltending. They're putting the goalies in tough positions where they got to make big saves early. They're not making big saves early. We're losing games in the first period, and you can't win a game in the first, but you can for sure lose a game in the first.
How many times have we let in a goal within the first 5 minutes of the game? Hell, even 2. Yeah. 2 goals in the first 5 minutes. You're down 2-0, and you got to climb back up.
It's tough. It's a tough position.
Yeah, it's difficult to give your team confidence right off the start. Do you see perhaps teams wanting to pick up Kessel on the trade deadline, maybe for a playoff push?
I don't know if that's the case, just because of the $8 million of a cap hit that is accompanied by him.
7 years at $8 million cap hit per season. That's a lot to get teams that are already in playoff contention. No other team has $8 million in cap space.
You have to give up players that are worth that amount. So whether piecing together a bunch of $3 million roster players, and mind you, the Leafs only have about $1.5 million of cap space to work with to get a deal going.
Yep.
So it's got to be value for value. So if you're pushing out that $8 million at the trade deadline, another team's got to, the Leafs have to bring that $8 million.
And you look at what you would have to get back for Kessel too to make it even worth your while to trade him at the trade deadline. There's no way. I just don't see him being moved at the trade deadline. Like Marian Gaborik was last year, getting moved to Los Angeles to make that final playoff push, but he had a much lower contract.
Yeah, I think he's only like 4.
He was at 1 year as well. Yeah. 1 year that he re-signed with them.
And that's the thing too. You see a lot of players in their final year of their contract. Those are the players to get moved. Like we talked about, Franzen, Santorelli, and Winnick. All in the Santorelli and Winnick were both signed to 1 year deals. Franzen's coming off the end of his deal. He's about a 3.3 cap hit right now. And this is a final year in his deal, and he's an unrestricted free agent.
Mm-hmm. And he's already turned down a $4.6 million cap hit for 3 seasons by the Leafs. They offered him, I think, a week or 2 back. Yeah. He turned it down. He says he wants to remain with the Leafs, but the numbers he's putting up is $5 million worth.
Yeah. He's going to get you some. Yeah. He's got one of the most unique shots in the league with that
fools goalies all the time.
With that quarter swing slap.
Yeah.
It's definitely he can quarterback a power play. You know, he can make solid defensive plays. He's a big body.
He is very big.
He's a big body. It's not like he's a Morgan Riley where he's really good offensively, but he's small in stature. Mm-hmm. No, he's a bigger boy. He's like 6'3", 6'4".
If he could figure out how to lay a vicious hit with that talent,
with that size,
he would move up. He does, and he's right-handed as well, which is huge in this league.
Yeah,
a lot of pairings are missing that top right-handed defenseman, and no, he is not in elite company right now. No. But you go up.
He slots in a top 4 so well.
Yes, he makes that playoff push that much better for a team.
He adds depth to your defense. He can step up. He can get you 40 points.
And
in the season.
He can play top 2. Whether on deeper teams he's more suited for top 4.
Yeah.
But he can play top 2, as shown in Toronto. He's excelled. Honestly, he 27 years old. He's much better than what we were ever expecting.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, he's got to go to a team like Chicago, who's already got established defensemen.
Yeah.
You look at Chicago, they have Keith, Hjalmarsson, Seabrook.
Right they need somebody to replace what Leddy left.
Exactly.
Yep.
And I think
who's been very good this year. Leddy has been amazing.
Yeah.
Sort of keeping with that same sort of trade sort of Leafs. What do you guys think about the recent push for Bozak, trying to get him and kind of getting shopped around?
I think it's very smart to start with your number 1 center. He's not a legitimate number 1 center.
He's a number 2 center. Let's get the facts straight.
Yeah.
He's had success because he has been able to give Kessel the puck when Kessel's been able to score almost 40 goals.
Yep.
You got a winger on your line that's going to score you almost 40 goals, plus playing with JVR, who, like I said earlier, had his most points ever as a Maple Leaf.
30 goals last season.
Yeah. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
You got that.
They're making him look a lot better. Like, I'm not saying he's bad, but they're making him
look. But as a
look.
line, when they get going, they have tremendous chemistry.
They had.
Don't
it's
have
gone.
anymore.
It's gone. I don't know.
No, it's gone.
I don't want to speculate. I don't know whether it's Horacek, whether it's they're uncomfortable with the current situation of the team, whether it's just a slump. I don't know. I'm not in the locker room.
Can't really.
You don't know if everything that's going on with Kessel and all these trade rumors and being demoted to the fourth line, which I think was ridiculous. I don't think a star player should be demoted to a fourth line.
Yeah.
That's just going to get
back
him
on minutes, but I mean,
putting him out there with Booth and who else was out there on the fourth line?
Booth, Panic, and
their fourth line keeps switching up.
We're alternating between.
Yeah,
Trevor
was it
Smith
Holland or Smith?
Holland.
Smith. Yeah, he played with Booth and Smith on the fourth line a few games back.
That's not going to help him.
No,
that doesn't
get you out of a slump.
That's a punishment. That's not. Let's teach him. Let's get him out of this slump. Get him back up and going.
You got to put Kessel with players who are going to get him the puck, because Kessel reminds me of a Steven Stamkos. Sets up in his spot, give him the puck, and he's going to
just below that hash mark lower circle part.
Yes, Kessel has shown that he can
there.
carry the puck into the zone and then fire. As you know, I thought he was going to get out of his slump when he scored against Arizona a few games back.
Yeah.
You know, he put a knuckler right in between Mike Smith's pads. I thought for sure, you know what?
He's been like that.
Confidence.
Like, he's been like that where he goes on these 10, 12 game slumps, whatever. It's always has been as a Leaf, and that's why he's never broken the 40-goal plateau.
Exactly.
Because he has those slumps. But normally all it does is take one to get him going. It hasn't worked yet. And I'm not sure if it's the new coach wanting a more defensive style game from him.
I think it's scheme. I don't think he's being played the way...
No. It's interesting, though. Like, it makes you wonder if the whole Leafs motto this year was, once they started falling out of contention, Carlisle, sure, he took the blunt of the blame. But was that the right move?
In my opinion, when you fire a coach, you need a replacement immediately.
And Horacek wasn't it.
He's an interim.
Yeah.
He's an interim. You can't do that. If you're going to fire your head coach, you need to have someone lined up.
Especially with the way the Leafs fired him. They were firing him in the hopes that they could bring in someone new and and try to get this playoff run back going. Whereas literally they just put in interim, which basically tells the players, okay, this year is done. We're not trying for a huge push for the cup or something like that. So
what if they knew they weren't trying to push for the playoff at all, like you just said?
Yeah.
What if the whole, after Carlisle was fired, it was like, let's tank. This is a deep draft. What if, right? Yeah. You don't know what's going on.
They're never going to admit that.
No.
Because as a professional in sports, you never want to say we're purposely losing.
No. Yes. But they could very well be knowing that we need to rebuild. Who knows? Shanahan could have got the word 2 months ago.
Oh, for sure.
And they're just releasing it now.
And just saying now that they're in a really bad spot, okay, we're fire sailing. Which I still don't think that they should have came out and said. Because that devalues the players.
Yeah, it makes us
it takes Cody Franzen from getting a first and a middle high end prospect, like a B plus A prospect coming back to more of just a B prospect, maybe getting that late first, right? Just because you know that they're desperate to get rid of him. You know he's not re-signing at the end of this year.
Yeah, they've already tried. So
it's just tough to say. You know, all you can do is speculate.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you think you know what's going on, and you never really know because we're not in the locker room, we're not in the offices.
We're not the players.
We're just fans who love the game and who are just tired of
watching
1967.
It's like playing Jenga. We're pulling out pieces and we're just waiting for it to fall. And we're tired of playing this game of waiting for the Leafs to fall.
Okay, let's take it back a couple years. Leafs make the playoffs for the first time in 8 years with Reimer. Next season, in the offseason, they bring in Bernier. Good decision? Bad decision? What do you guys think about the goalie situation now?
Okay. Looking at it from a general manager standpoint, you got this young goaltender who's been backup for Jonathan Quick, backup for a Stanley Cup champ. He's watched a great goaltender like Jonathan Quick. He becomes available. What do you think you're going to do? Yeah, you just made the playoffs, but you got eliminated in Game 7, and the other team scored 4 goals in the last 15 minutes of the game.
You can never blame that all on Reimer.
No. Oh, God, no.
Which is...
Oh, God, no.
I love Reimer. I really do love Reimer. I love the heart that he has. You can tell Leafs were never fully behind Reimer going into it. When he got called up in his rookie season from the Marlies, yes, he impressed. But how many times did Gustafsson get another chance back in the net?
Yeah.
It's his rebound control was never there. And to calm a game down, I can see why they went out and tried to get Jonathan. Well, they got Jonathan Bernier, and relatively cheap too. I mean, Scriven's a career backup. No matter what if he is, he's a starter in Edmonton. He's not a starter anywhere else in the league.
No, yeah, for sure.
Maybe on Buffalo. But you gave up Ben Scrivens, Matt Fratton, who's now, he's in the Marlies now, right? Yeah. He cleared waivers to go back to the Marlies. You got him back, which I think was still ridiculous. If you're not going to play him, why did you trade away another asset?
Yeah.
Who did they get rid of?
For Fratton?
It was a trade back.
I
can't remember.
Lower name players, but I remember that he had higher potential than Fratton did.
Yeah.
I mean, in the back of their mind, sure, like Fratton had chemistry with Kadri, but did they ever play him with Kadri?
No.
They
played him as like a 13th forward.
Yeah.
Where if someone on the 4th or 3rd line isn't producing, we'll throw you in for a game or maybe 2.
Yeah. So like you threw that, and then I think it was a second round pick, and at the time they just made the playoffs, so they're not looking to rebuild through the draft yet. They think they've got their core. JVR.
They're looking to retool, bring in pieces, and one of the pieces they brought in was a Bernier.
Yeah, and who in that first season had a stellar year.
Yep.
Once he got hurt, Ryan, like the whole team fell off the wagon, and it went downhill with
Jenga collapse.
Yeah.
Yep.
Jenga
Once again, another collapse. Another
collapse.
collapse.
Well, we've seen it time and time again.
Yeah.
So going back to your question, in hindsight, we'd love to say, hey, did bringing in Jonathan Bernier wreck Reimer's confidence? Who knows? Did he have confidence to begin with? Who knows? Because again, we're not him. We don't know him personally.
He puts on a big smile after every game, but you don't know if it's actually how he's feeling.
That's how he does every game.
He wears his emotions on his sleeve, pretty much. He's that type of guy, and it's you wanna see him succeed.
Yeah, you wanna like the guy.
He was drafted by Toronto in the 4th round. He was a feel good story for Toronto. Actually, a goalie that we kept.
Yeah.
It didn't trade away for. We let him develop. Yeah. Oh, God.
Oh, God.
Oh, man.
Well, hey, let's keep Justin Pogge.
Let's get Raycroft. Yeah. Good choice, guys.
Oh, man.
Again, another story of the Leafs trading away prospects for a quick fix.
Mm-hmm. Which they constantly try to do the quick fix, and it's kind of nice to hear that they're actually going to go a full-blown rebuild. Like
let's look at Buffalo for a second. Buffalo's going through a big rebuild. Look at Buffalo in 2 to 3 years. Their center core. I'm going to list off some centers that they have right now who are all NHL centers that are coming into play. So they have Cody Hodgson, who could be a career 2nd, 3rd liner.
Was he like 24? 24 years old?
Young guy, 20. Yeah. I think he may be 22, 23.
Yeah, he's not.
I don't think 24. So Cody Hodgson. Mikhail Grigorenko, 19, 20-year-old.
Bright future. Bright future.
Great shot. Zemgus Jurgensen.
All-star.
He's going to be a career...
All-star.
Second liner. And on maybe even first line if he develops...
And he's big. He's big and strong.
He's a big guy.
He's a center that's going to win you face-offs. He's probably going to get 50 to 60 points a season.
Yeah, when he develops fully.
Depending which line he plays on.
What if they have McDavid? And he plays with him. He becomes an 80-point guy.
Yep, Sam Reinhart.
Yeah, can't forget about him. 2nd overall pick last year.
Yeah, Sam Reinhart.
They're scary in a few years.
They're going to be deep down that middle, and I think you're going to see them move either Cody Hodgson, Jurgensen, or Grigorenko to bring in that other winger. Mm-hmm. They just got Evander Kane.
That's scary.
That's
and they still have Matt Molson.
Yeah.
He was still, what is he? He's like 29, 30.
30.
He's still got a few years. Yeah, he's still got a few years. He's going to be that veteran leadership because they now got rid of Drew Stafford.
Yeah.
So you mix him up with Evander Kane and a possibility of Jack Eichel or Connor McDavid on that top line. Or if that doesn't pan out, then Sam Reinhart right there.
Exactly.
Sam Reinhart's an elite playmaker.
Yeah.
And he's just got to develop, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him on Buffalo next year.
Yeah.
Like, I could see him totally going on to Buffalo next year.
I bet you in this offseason, we see Buffalo, either this offseason or the next, Buffalo's going to make moves to bring in either some wingers to surround their center core or beef up on defense.
Yeah, and their defense is scary too in a few years. Like,
Yeah, they got Ristolainen.
Zadorov.
They got Ristolainen, who was one of Finland's best defensemen in the World Juniors a few years back. You know, he's a great two-way D-man. Zadorov, who's
massive.
huge.
Like, he reminded kind of like a Tyler Myers.
One of the most physical Russian defensemen that we're going to see.
Yeah, certainly, no doubt.
Okay, but where's the one issue you guys never brought up was the goaltending situation, which they're not overly strong.
In Buffalo?
In
Buffalo.
Yeah.
Again, you could see the move because they're going to have...
Well, because they just got rid of Jonas Enroth.
Yep.
What's his name?
Lindback.
Lindback and a third.
Yeah.
So they added in another possible asset. They're giving the reins to Neuwirth and Lindback. Lindback was a high caliber prospect at one point.
Yeah.
Playing behind.
He can win you some serious games, playing
he's
20
big.
to 30 games a season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, as a back, I think he's a solid backup goalie, and I think he's going to steal some games for them.
His value went down in the playoffs last year when Bishop went down.
Yeah.
And it hurt his value, might have hurt his confidence. Change of scenery might be nice.
Yeah.
For him.
And
Jonas Enroth is going to excel behind, trying to overtake Kari Lettinen for that starting position, because Kari Lettinen has not been anywhere near as good as he's been in the past. Yeah. His save percentage is much, much lower than his career average.
Yeah. But for me, personally, for Buffalo, let's say, speculation, let's say they get the first pick. They bring in McDavid. So their center core of the future. McDavid, Reinhart, Grigorenko, Gergensen, Hodgson. Don't be surprised if you see them either move Grigorenko, maybe even Reinhart.
I could see Reinhart.
Maybe even Gergensen to bring in that elite goaltender.
Yes, that could very well happen.
I could see that for sure.
You go down a few years, you don't know what prospect goaltenders are coming in the league, what goaltenders are going to have a breakout season. I mean, look at Ben Bishop.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. He got traded to for Corey Conacher.
Look at Halak.
Agreed.
Halak in New York.
He's 30 years old.
He's got 30 wins on the season.
Yeah.
You know, he's in that goalie race for the Vezina.
He is completely. I mean, New York Islanders have been an amazing story this year.
Yeah. You were not expecting that team to lead in the Metropolitan Division.
Like, because it's very interesting because, like, it shows what happens when you take the slow build through the draft, and then when you feel your prospects are ready, and they still got Dal Cole down in the minors. They still don't have Griffin Reinhart up yet. Like, they still have some strong prospects. Yep. I mean, Griffin Reinhart has been he's been mentioned as a top prospect for a long time. Just makes you wonder if he's ever going to break through.
I think next year you'll see him.
Yep.
You know, they got
it would have been this year, but they brought in Leddy and Boychuk, and that pushed him back down.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think next year he'll crack the squad. They got Travis Hamonic, young defensive, like he's like 23, 24.
Physical too.
Really talented.
Yep.
You know, he can play the puck offensively. He's a bigger guy. He can lay the hit. He's got a good stick.
These were all people that they drafted.
Yeah. They're just keeping their players. They're taking the slow route, you know.
And they felt
New York Islanders were bad.
Like bad.
They draft John Tavares. It's like
first overall pick,
You know, this is one of the greatest OHLers to ever, you know, lace him up in the OHL.
Yeah.
You know, he got early eligibility for the OHL. One of like 8 players. Something like that.
Yeah.
8 players, you know.
I think in total, so.
Point a game player, you know, he's going to put up 30 plus goals. You know, playing with Dal Cole in a few years.
That could be very scary. I mean, and you can't forget about Oposo.
Yeah.
I mean, he's injured right now, and they're still winning. He's a star power forward.
They're having good go things. They're having good go things, that's for sure.
And like, they certainly didn't just build through the draft, though, which is really cool. They took their prospects that they had, and once they felt they were ready, then they made the splash in free agency to get Halak. They got Kuhlman. They got Grabowski.
Kuhlman's been a great addition to that team, too.
A great penalty killer.
Yeah.
Right? The 30-goal season that he had with the Leafs, it's a one-off thing. He's never going to score 30 goals for you.
Yeah.
But he's going to kill penalties. He's
may
get
15 to 25.
Yeah. He certainly has the ability to get 20 goals. No problem. If put in the right position. And Grabowski's a heart and soul guy.
Yeah.
Which is, when you have younger talent on your team, it's great to see those leaders come in who have played together. They're familiar with each other.
Yep.
They know the play style.
And I mean, you got Anders Lee. You got all these players that are growing up in the Islanders organization.
They're a very young team.
And in a few years, like they're top of the East right now. What if in a few years?
Yeah, what happens when all their players develop?
Yeah,
like they're really strong.
You're gonna see them to be like a Chicago for a few years, where they're dominating that East Coast.
Yeah.
The only question would be if Halak can have another great season next year.
Halak is getting old as well.
He is.
Look at who is going to be Halak's successor.
And they don't have that right now there. No. For the longest time, they didn't have a goalie.
Yeah.
They struck gold.
Pietro.
Yeah.
Woo!
Oh.
First overall.
Yeah.
It's funny too. They won the lottery to get him.
All right, let's kind of move this into our next section on trades. We'll start off with the Evander Kane trade and who you think. This kind of relates to our Buffalo situation, but who you guys think won the trade and what each team was looking for in that.
Okay. In my opinion, if you look at it at a short-term deal, Winnipeg wins this trade hands down.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Long-term deal, like, let's say, more than one season, 2, 3, 4, 5 seasons, I think Buffalo might win this deal. Evander Kane's going to be a nice piece to add on the wing.
Change of scenery was great for him, too.
Yeah.
Like, it'll be interesting to see next year. Still fits in that young group talent.
Yeah.
I mean, what is he, 22, 23?
Yeah, he's not an old guy.
Bogosian's like 24 as well.
Bogosian's a big defenseman who's going to get you, he's going to play solid minutes in Buffalo. He's basically a Tyler Myers replica. They're very similar style game.
If you wash Myers for Bogosian, right? Say that Bogosian's maybe he was drafted a little bit higher. Myers had the Calder rookie season.
Yeah.
You wash those two. Say that was 1 for 1 right there.
Yeah.
A swap. Even swap there, change the scenery, not living up to expectations quite yet. That could be good for them. So then you look, Kane is then worth a current roster player with 1 year left who was a former first-round pick in Drew Stafford in 2004.
Great second liner, Drew Stafford.
Yep. Yeah. He'll probably slide down to third line on Winnipeg, but he'll give you that depth for the playoff push that they need.
Yeah.
Joel Armia, he is a excellent prospect. And Brendan Lemieux's a power forward.
I feel like Armia's going to be the piece of this trade that Buffalo regrets. I feel like in a few years he has the potential to make Buffalo go, his value is the reason this trade goes through.
Mm-hmm. He's a pure goal scorer too, which is something Buffalo, a winger goal scorer, they may need
down the road.
Yeah. I mean, it never hurts to have secondary goal scoring. He could have moved into that second line, maybe even the top line. You never know down the line.
I feel like in 2 to 3 years, they're going to either be like, we did the right thing moving him, or this just bit us in the ass.
Yeah. And I mean, you got to look at the talent they gave up, right? Kane is he's a very, very good talent that has yet to see his potential. Yeah. You never know what Armia is going to be. He very well could, like you said, it could bite them in the ass, or it could look to be great.
Yeah.
Brendan Lemieux's just going to be a career third, maybe second liner at best.
Yeah.
And that first round pick, that's the worst of their three, most likely going to go to the New York, from the New York Islanders. I mean, that's not going to be a high pick if they go deep in the playoffs.
It'll be in the 20s. Yeah. But again, looking at this deal, it's a good trade for both teams because Winnipeg's getting Evander Kane out of the West.
Mm-hmm.
Least likely for him next season to come back and light them up.
And he was a plague in their team too. So the amount of value they got back when teams knew they wanted to get rid of him.
Yeah.
And injured too.
Yeah. And injured.
Yeah.
And the fact
how often does an injured player like Kane, who's got a reputation, get traded and you get pretty much a first and 2 good prospects and a roster player back for him?
Yeah.
How often does that happen? Never.
That's fair.
Would you say this is arguably the biggest trade of the salary cap era?
It's a big trade. It's a big deal.
At the time, the Phaneuf one, but we've seen how that panned out.
It didn't pan out as nicely as it could have, but in all honesty, that trade was quite
It was good for the Leafs.
Through.
I do still want to say the Leafs won the trade because they do have a top 2 defenseman. You can argue all you want about Phaneuf. He takes so much heat for what he does on the ice. Is he the number 1 defenseman on most teams? No. Is he a solid number 2? Yes.
Yes. He needs the support. The Leafs have never given enough the support
they
to
need
be
someone of equal or better caliber, which he's always just been better. Like, they've always just assumed for him to be better than every other.
He played with Carl Gunnarsson.
Yeah. I mean,
for the longest time.
Got Rowan Polak. We give up a third and Gunnarsson to get Polak.
Yeah.
Who's don't get me wrong, Polak is once again hardworking guy.
You know?
He could be moved at the deadline. You never know what teams are looking for. That depth defenseman who's gonna shut you down. Great. Yes, and he in a 7-game series that will wear you out.
Oh yeah.
He lays the body on them.
Finishes his checks. You know, he bumps India in front of that net. You know, he's gonna give you a couple hacks. He's gonna give you a couple cross checks in the playoffs. I feel like Polak's gonna be a good playoff player, and he could be a piece that some teams are looking for just to round out their defense. You know, they're looking for that bottom pairing guy.
What about a
penalty killer?
A Nashville. Mm-hmm. What about Nashville? Are they looking to get that, solidify their top 6? Have Ryan Ellis play along with maybe a Polak?
Yeah.
I could see that working out. Teams like that. Like you said, Chicago, maybe they're so front-loaded with talent that once you go past their top 4, Hjalmarsson, he doesn't have that shutdown pairing anymore.
Yeah.
Letty and Hjalmarsson last year were the shutdown pairing. And you give Seabrook and Keith, thank you. All the offensive talent in the world, let them shut down. I would much rather move in with a Polak and Hjalmarsson than what they have now.
So let's say, okay, so who are your top 10 players you would say who are our biggest trade bait for this trade deadline?
From the Leafs or the league?
No, I'd say probably league in general.
Okay.
Just makes it a lot easier that way.
Top 10, that's pretty beefy. I'll give you my top 3.
Okay. Top 3 in the league.
So, for me personally, you got to look at Cody Franzen. You know,
no doubt.
A top 4 defenseman. He can log you 20 minutes a game. You know, he can play on your power play. He's an okay penalty killer, but being that right hand, some teams want to have that on their penalty kill. You know, he can put in pucks in the net from that point. Look to see him to be like someone who's in contention to roll with the cup. Look for him to be the go-to guy.
My favorite's Detroit. I think Detroit's they've been interested in him all along. They have prospects. They are very good at developing prospects. They have enough to surplus. I don't know.
I just don't know if Leafs deal him to
the East. That's the problem. You don't know if...
Yeah. Especially one in their division. They'll be seeing 4 or 5
because it could come back to bite you in the ass.
Right, as of short term, okay, you can pull the trigger on moving Friends into a East Conference team because rebuild 3 years. Let's say that 3 years. We don't want to make the playoffs at all in the next 3 years.
So Franzen's not really a factor.
So him coming back to bite you in the ass... that only proceeds if he stays with Detroit after.
He's 27 now. That'll take him to 30, 31, whenever his birthday actually is.
Yeah.
He's starting to get up there in age. He was never a solidified top 2 defenseman. So generally, defensemen like that, as they grow older, they fall back into a top 4, top 6 role. He may fall back into a top 6 role, or he may continue to stay productive. You never know.
Yeah, you never know. And it all depends on his body. And
he's never been the fastest of skaters, either, which is a downfall for Franzen being a guy of that height. He's not the most mobile. He's great walking the line, but if you poke him at the line, you get past him. We've seen multiple occasions that...
He's not catching you.
No, he's not. He's not. So you need to pair him with a speedy defender.
But you could see him being more of a mentor in those later years to a young defenseman, offensive side. So... let's say
think of a top pairing. Just think of a Cronwall, Franzen top pairing moving into the... That's not a bad top pairing. I know it's very unlikely he gets traded to the East, but I think Detroit's knocking on their step.
If you look at it from a rebuild, you know, it's not a bad deal. It's not like it's a forward who's going to come back and, you know, he's going to snipe games.
He's not going to turn into a 40-goal scorer.
You know,
he may get turned into a 40-50 point. He's a 40-point guy, right? Or pretty close to 40 points already. Yeah. He may turn into a 50-point guy. You never know. It's unlikely. His career numbers aren't there. He's a solid top 4 defenseman who will get you 40 points.
Yeah.
Okay.
What would you give up to get him, though? Like, what do you think their asking price would be for the Leafs?
I think a pick for sure, which is why I don't... See, if you're the Leafs, you might want to like think about moving him to a team who's like on the fringe, who's looking for that player to push them into the
maybe
into
a
the playoffs,
Dallas,
but they might not.
So after Franzen, who would you say next person on your list for top trade bait would be?
Top trade bait next on my list.
Well, there's quite a few good ones actually out there available. You could look back to the Leafs again and do like a Santorelli or a Winnick because every team is in need of someone like that. I think I'm going to go with another D, though, and say Andre Sekera. A very solid top 4 D-man out of Carolina. He used to be an all-star. I mean, he's got the talent with him right there. I think that a lot of teams will be knocking and might be able to get him a little bit cheaper because he's not having one of the best seasons in Carolina. Carolina's not having a great season at all.
They got to do something with the Stahl brothers over there. They got to decide what they want to do.
Yeah.
I think Sekera will get a lot of offers, and I would not be surprised at all to see him be moved.
What do you see coming back if you trade Sekera? What do you?
I don't see him fetching you a first-round pick.
I feel like he's going to fetch you a prospect.
Yeah.
I feel like Carolina wants possibly like a defensive prospect platform. So they're giving up a roster player who's going to log you some minutes in a top 4, and what they want back is a guy who could turn into that same guy
later on.
But he just produces better for them than Sekera.
And that's when they start going into their younger talent. And that's why, like you said, they need to address the Stahl brothers. I mean, Jordan Stahl is fine. He's in that age group. Eric isn't. He's 30 years old.
Yeah.
$8 million.
He's making a lot of money. And
is it 8 or 8.5? I want to say 8.5 cap hit. Somewhere around there.
He's a lot.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
I was a little nervous when the Leafs were talking of trying to pick him up.
That wouldn't have been right.
That would not have been.
Once again, the quick fix.
Yeah.
They're always trying to look for the bringing in one guy who can save the team, which is not what they need to be doing.
So, I agree with Sekera. I think you're going to see a Winnick or a Santorelli. They're going to fetch a lot. You know, they can both kill the penalty. Winnick's one of the
second-round picks. I can see second-round picks coming back.
One of the best penalty killers. Yeah. You know, he's a hard worker. Again, he's a playoff player. You know, he's going to finish checks. He's going to make it tough to play against him. He's defensively sound. And Santorelli has had a surge in points this year. He could be that second or third liner that some team need. Like, let's say someone goes down with an injury. Who knows? He could be that guy that steps up and maybe gets you, you know, a point a game in your first round of the playoffs. Or let's say you go 7. He could be a guy who gets, you know, 4 points, 5 points. If you're getting 5 points in 7 games out of your second liner, like, that's huge.
It's massive.
That's huge. Accompanied by first line scoring.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that is
Santorelli only makes sense if you have that first line scoring that's clicking. If you just have Santorelli, which we've seen with the Leafs, it does nothing.
He has bursts of greatness in him. He's not consistent.
He's not
with the Leafs.
Yeah.
And I mean, not a lot of players are.
It's tough to be consistent in the league. Yeah. Let's look at how many consistent players are in this league. I mean, it's a handful. You can probably only count them on both your hands.
Even Patrick Kane didn't even reach 30 goals last year.
You know, like, exactly.
Right? And then he signed that ridiculous contract, him and Taves. Like, but a lot of money. A lot of money. Yeah. And he didn't even reach 30 goals, but now he's leading the league in points right now, as of today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
62. Who do you see as your third? Like, I know
if I'm not going to say Santorelli and Winnick, look to see Vermette out of Arizona.
Yep.
Again, he can be that second line center. It's going to just help. It's for the playoffs. It's all about depth. The deepest team wins the cup. That's the way this league works.
Especially if you're in the West. Especially if you're in the West. But look to see Vermette go to an East team. I could see, because the East teams that are planned to come out, Pittsburgh, the Islanders.
I don't know if Pittsburgh.
I don't see him moving in.
Just because they have Crosby, Malkin, and Sutter, Brandon Sutter. I don't see him going.
But teams at the top of the East are going to be looking to add that depth.
Maybe a Detroit. You know?
Yep.
Detroit, maybe a Rangers, Capitals even.
It's up for grabs in the East. It's so close.
Really...
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me one bit to see a wild card team, the 8th seeded team in the East, knock out the first seeded.
I think Florida's going to make a splash. In all honesty, I feel like
going to make a solid push towards the end.
I feel like Florida. I feel like they want it. You know,
they're young.
They're an underdog team. You know, they got Jonathan Huberdeau, Alexander Barkov. You know, they just picked up Aaron Ekblad,
who's been unreal.
Who's an NHLer.
Yeah,
you know,
he's a mammoth of a man. Like, you know, for being 18 years old, like,
he's a big guy.
He is. He's really impressed a lot of people with his play this year, and he's a big reason why Florida's doing as well as they are. Again, you got to give credit to Luongo.
Mm-hmm.
Oh
yeah. That the trade for Luongo now looks very, very good for them.
Yeah,
it looks really good for them. If it's not this year that they make the playoffs, it's next year, and
if Luongo keeps playing the way he is. That was a solid trade.
You weren't going to make the playoffs with whatever his name was that went back to Vancouver.
Yeah.
I can't remember what his name is.
No.
Okay, so I know we talked a bit about Vermette being kind of one of these guys, but who do you think are possible pickups for teams, and who do you think the teams would be for possible like playoff or cup runs who are like picking up people at the trade deadline?
Jágr.
Jágr?
I see Jágr being moved again. He has said outright that he wants to be moved to a contending playoff team. He's been linked a lot to going back to Pittsburgh.
Okay.
To finish off his career. If he decides to finish it off, that would make sense. Moving out like a Bo Bennett from your top 6, or a Blake Como. Guys who are succeeding well because of the centers they are with. Are they going to get you the guaranteed goal scoring or that guaranteed presence? Not Blake Como.
No.
Jágr might. We saw what he did with Boston, right?
Yeah.
I could see him going out.
The only thing I have with Jágr is he is old.
Very old. 43.
I do not know how he's going to handle playoff hockey.
He's proven it in the last few years. He has proven it.
But he's big.
He's still getting
slow.
older.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if he's a great guy to have. You know, he's going to lead your team. He can put the puck in the net. There's no doubt about it.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know if he's the guy people want for this cup push. Some teams do. To me, it depends who you're going to put him with. You know, you got to put him with someone who's a faster defensive winger, maybe, and then with that playmaking center.
Mm-hmm.
It would make sense for him to go to Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh would make sense.
I feel like him alongside of Malkin would be great in the playoffs because Malkin is that playmaking center, and then all you need is that defensive, not necessarily defensive, but just that two-way left winger, you know, who's going to make up for him. That's the only thing I have that worries me.
I could also see him going back to Boston.
That's the only thing that worries me.
Like you said, with him being older, slower, that's the Boston style.
He fits into Boston.
And ever since he left, or again left this year, or in free agency, they've had that missing gap.
Yeah.
In their top 6. They've tried to plug players in who have done well for little bits of time, but I could see Pittsburgh and Boston being the favorites for Jágr to go to.
Okay, I could see that. Is there any other guys you think who may, again, be teams that are... Sorry, a player that teams are pushing for at the trade deadline?
There's certainly going to be parts, people that will be moved. Whether that they're big name attractions, no, it's going to be filling in the depth.
You're going to see a lot of role players.
I mean, Jeff Petrie from Edmonton. It's almost foregone conclusion that he's going to be gone. He may bring you back a 3rd round pick. It's going to be very minor deals.
Okay.
For the most part, I see a lot of deals being made this trade deadline.
But I feel that
not a lot of like
it's such a tight
There's going to be very, very few.
It's a tight race.
Very, very few big deals. You look past Vermette, Franzen, maybe Sekera.
After that, it drops off.
What's
for big name players?
Bozak, yes, he's being linked right now to being.
But even that's.
But he's a second line center. What's a second line center going to get you? Like you got to compare. Vermette would be kind of the same player.
Yeah.
I could not see me sending out a first round pick for Vermette, but regardless of that, David Perron did receive a first round pick to Edmonton.
I could see Bozak bringing in a first round pick only because he's not old.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's not old, and he's shown that put with certain players, he'll get you
He
some
can
points.
succeed. Yeah.
And he's a great face-off man.
He is a very good face-off man. He can kill penalties.
Which, that might bump his value.
Yep, I could see that. Vermette is also a very good face-off man. He's a very good face-off man. I would consider those two, maybe with the lack of centers now available with Hansel out, it starts to thin the trade market, and maybe teams end up overpaying for a second-line center that may or may not be back within the following year.
Yeah. Depends on how bad they want the cup and what they think they need.
I can see a lot of these West fringe teams right now making a move for possibly one of the Bozak or
I can see Winnipeg
Vermette.
making another deal.
Yes, I can see that. Matthew Pearl's been an amazing success story with Winnipeg this year.
They want this playoffs badly. That's
Winnipeg
City.
is dying for it.
Yeah.
Like,
And I think they're going to do it. I think
so too.
I think this is their year to make the playoffs, and I don't think it's just make the playoffs for them. They have a good lineup. It is a good lineup.
I think they'll make the semis. I think they'll make the semis.
Are they strong enough to go?
I think they'll make the semis. If they make the playoffs, I believe they'll make this. They'll get past the first round. I don't know if they'll go through that round though.
The second round, to me, it seems like that's where you're gonna draw. You're gonna draw pretty good teams.
Let's just look at
in the West, especially.
If the playoffs were today, you would see Winnipeg playing the Ducks in that first round.
That's a tough matchup.
That's a very tough matchup. Very tough matchup.
That's difficult.
You know.
But will Frederik Andersen live up to what he's been playing all year in the playoffs? He's still very young. You can say that about Michael Hutchinson as well for Jets, right?
Yeah.
You have Pavlik back there, who is his career numbers weren't great, but he's having a stellar season this year.
Yeah,
Hutchinson's just had that much better.
Yeah.
So if you throw in Pavlik,
if his nerves are getting to him with Hutchinson and he's shaky in net, you know you do have a goalie in Pavlik. But the thing still is there. That team, that core, has never made the playoffs. Going back to Atlanta Thrashers, has not made the playoffs.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of young talent on that team, a lot of promise.
There's a lot at stake.
But you're going up against, if it were to happen today, like you said, you're going up against a veteran team who is probably one of the Cup favorites.
Getzlaf, Corey Perry, those are two guys who single-handedly can win you a series.
Game changers.
Yeah.
They can win you that series.
For sure.
All it takes Corey Perry to just turn that switch.
They go off like nobody else.
So that's a tough first round.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
And then what if they got past that? You look at teams like, are you starting to look at Chicago? That you're going to face St. Louis? The West is so tough to get out of.
Exactly. That's why, even looking now that I think about it, saying that they're going up against Ducks round 1. If it were today, they're going up against Ducks round 1. I don't know if they have the firepower to get past the Ducks.
You lose Kane now.
Well, he was out.
Yeah, I know he was out, but you've lost Kane either way.
Yeah.
That hurts. A Winnipeg Jets team with Kane is better than without.
Yeah.
Most teams are with Kane. Whether it's behavioral issues, whatever.
He's going to put pucks in the net.
He's going to score. Drew Stafford's not going to replace that 30 goals that he got last season.
Yeah.
From now to the end, he may get you 7 to 10 goals. If he gets on a hot streak to the end of the season. I don't know, because you're right. The firepower, with Myers back on D, you don't have to worry about moving Bufflin up to play that right wing power forward. Because now they got Stafford in there. Mm-hmm. So there's a whole bunch of things, but like you said, they don't have that star sniper yet in the Jets.
It's going to be tough. I don't know, but let's say they make third slot and they play St. Louis round 1. I think they have a far better chance against
St. Louis, for sure.
than Anaheim.
Yep. but that is still a very tough team.
It's the West.
Yep. Any team you draw in the West is going to put up a challenge. Hell, look at Calgary. They're young,
Yeah.
but they're scary.
Don't count them out.
No, highest scoring third period team in the league.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Don't count them out. So there's a lot of ifs in the West.
Yeah.
And they're all going to be making a push for these top trade acquisitions.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we'll move on to our next section, contender or pretender. Basically how this section is going to work is we're going to look at the roughly 10 teams that are around that fringe area for the playoffs. And I'm basically going to give each of you 1 minute for each team, and you have to basically give your thoughts on whether or not you think they're a contender or a pretender. All right?
Alternating between?
Yeah, so we'll go, like, one team, we'll do Steve, then you, then we'll go back and forth.
Okay.
All right, so first team is Washington in the East. Steve, what are your thoughts? Contender or pretender?
Washington in the East. I think they're going to make the playoffs. I'll say contender.
Mm-hmm.
They got 68 points right now. They got that last wild card slot, or the first wild card slot, beg my pardon. They're 1 point behind the Rangers for third place in their division. So it's a tight race there. And then they have a 9-point gap ahead, like, between them and Florida
mm-hmm.
for that, like, for the wild card. So I don't think with, them having 27 games left, Washington does. They have 27 games left. I don't think they're going to lose their with guys like Alex Ovechkin, Backstrom, I don't think.
I completely agree.
Yep. Ovechkin's going to score you enough goals, I think, to help you stay into that playoff spot.
Yeah.
Whether they crack the third slot or stay in the wild card, it's up to them. It's up to Braden Holtby on how he plays.
Who's been unreal this season.
Great.
He's hitting back to that the playoff run they had.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Connor, what are your thoughts on this?
With Washington?
With Washington.
Definitely contender.
Okay.
I think they are a contender. They, like everything you said, 68 points. This is probably our furthest, closest spot to almost a guarantee out of the fringe teams.
Yeah.
Washington, they would have to go on a tremendous losing streak. Holtby's having too good of a year. Ovechkin's going to get you goals. Backstrom's looking once again like the star player. Green's had a bounce back season. They got everything to make the playoffs, and I don't believe that they're done on the fringe. They're going to push for that third spot.
All right. I like that. So next team would be Boston. Steve, what do you think, contender or pretender?
So again, Boston, that's that. So right now they're in the last wild card slot.
What, 62 points?
63 points, 54 games played. They got Florida right on their tail with 59. But, Boston's been to the playoffs before. They've won that Stanley Cup. I think contender. I don't think you can call them a pretender, with their recent Cup victory.
Yeah.
I honestly think they're a contender, and for one reason only, they play playoff hockey. They play tough,
it's very true
hockey, in your face. You're not going to score a lot of goals against Boston with Tuukka Rask in the net and the physicality that they bring to the game. Boston's just a team that if they can find goal scoring, they're going to win. They have a bunch of 20 goal scorers. They don't have that premier sniper.
Never have.
Yeah.
Never have.
But they don't
not in a very, very long time have they.
So, for me personally, it's contender, but it's going to come down to playoff scoring.
All right. I like that.
Pretender. I feel Boston
okay.
is on the downhill swing right now. They're getting old. Patrice Bergeron is still one of the elite two-way forwards in the game. You look past that, though, their top six is it's dwindled down. They don't have the stud anymore with Chart. He's no longer the player he used to be. Everybody is getting old. They're slow. And with teams catching up like Philly and Florida, who are going to push them, and obviously Tuukka Rask, he has much better career numbers than this season. He's having a down year. I think this is a lull in the season for Boston with their top six how it is. Boston's always had great depth, third and fourth lines. Their top six was always able to get them to 20 goals. Milan Lucic is not the Lucic we used to know. I say pretender.
Okay.
All right. Next team would be Florida. Steve?
I think Florida's going to be a contender. I honestly think they're going to make a move at the deadline that is going to help them, push. Are they going to go deep in the playoffs? I don't think so. Are they going to make the playoffs? They got a good chance, I said Boston was a contender, but that is if Florida can't come up to the task. They got one less game played than Boston as of right now. So let's say Florida has that W. They're only 2 points back. That is nothing, a winning streak or a losing streak for Boston that can't, swing it for you. This is a tight race I think it's a tight race for the last wildcard slot.
Yes, I agree. It's down to 3 teams for the last wildcard spot in the East.
You got Boston with 63, Florida with 59, and then Philly with 55. 55 is not a stretch. 8 points is not a stretch.
Especially in the number of games that they have left in this season.
Still,
and you look at the talent they have on that roster.
Yeah.
Philly. We're not going to talk about Philly yet. That's going to be the next team.
All right.
But Florida, they're young, which is why I don't think they're going to go deep in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, they're young. They have the endurance. They got the energy. They're riding a wave right now. I don't know what it's from, but they are riding a certain wave right now.
It is, but...
And, you gotta like that team.
They're hard not to like. They are hard not to like. But for me, pretender for Florida as well. And here's why. Like everything you just said, they are young. And when push comes to shove, there's another team just below them that I feel has more firepower, who got off to a very bad start to the season, who has been turning it around as of late. I feel Florida is going to be missing the playoffs by 1 or 2 points. They're going to be right there the whole time. It's going to be very, very close. That's just my feeling, Florida being as young as they are, as it stands right now, at least. Like you said, they could be one move away from acquiring a second-line center to possibly pushing towards that. But as it stands right now, I see them as a pretender. I don't think they have the assets to move, to bring in multiple trade acquisitions.
Yeah.
Because they are still very young and they have a lot of high-end prospects that they don't want to deal out for rentals.
Yeah.
So pretender, but not for long. Next year will be their year.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, Steve, as you said, Philadelphia is our next team. Do you think they could possibly make that push?
I'm saying pretender for Philadelphia. And the reason why, Connor said it earlier, poor start to the season. I think that start is really going to come back to bite them in the ass. Jakub Voracek's having a great season, and Claude Giroux is an outstanding center. He's going to get you some points. I don't feel like they have the goaltending or the defense that's going to push them to the playoffs. I feel like Philly's going to fall 5 points short. That first line, they're going to get them
Very
goals.
tough.
They're going to get them goals. But past that, I don't know how well they're going to do. And for them being 8 points back, I know I said that's not a lot, but it is at the same time. It's not a lot, but that is 4 wins in a row with the other team not getting a single point, which is tough to do.
That's a big
It's very
gap.
tough to do.
It's tough to do.
Gap.
So for that poor start at the beginning of the season, I'm saying pretender.
And obviously, I got to say contender here, otherwise I ran out of teams. But I've always liked Philly with their lineup that they have. They have gaping holes, no doubt. But it's certainly, I feel, sorry, let's...
Please don't look me in the eyes and say they have gaping holes.
I literally was just I'm like, I hope I'm not the only one who finds that funny. I look over at Steve, she was like,
I couldn't even do it. Okay.
We're still out? All right.
Yeah. So I'll take it back to the contender part.
Okay. Wait. From the start?
Yeah, from the start. Yeah.
Okay. And boom.
So obviously, I gotta say contender because I'd run out of teams if I didn't. So basically, I really like what Philly brings to the table. They are an older team, which helps in these last little bits. Their defense is certainly older, but you've seen Michael Del Zotto this year take over as their top defenseman, who is he's been waiting for that breakout season again after leaving New York. Claude Giroux and Jakub Voracek alone, they're almost as deadly as Getzlaf and Perry. Not quite.
I think this season you can call them
but
just as
they are almost. The only reason I say not quite is because Getzlaf has more of the size. But they are still lethal every time they're on the ice. And they are going to get you goals. Emery's not a bad backup. If they can at least go roughly 500 until Mason gets back, I think they have a serious shot at it. And only reason I say this also, because they were in the same position last year and they pulled through at the end. They had a poor start to the season under the new coach, Craig Berube. Berube, right?
I think yeah.
Berube? Yeah. Craig Berube. Under the new coach, they dropped down, then he brought them right back up, and that's what happened this year. They have been on an incredible swing as of late. And I just feel they're only a few wins away from being right there. And I think their veteran leadership has a chance to pull into the playoffs.
We're going to change this up a little bit for contender and pretender for the West. So you now both have 30 seconds each for each team, and there's going to be a buzzer that goes off at the end of the 30 seconds, and that is all you get.
Can I finish my point at the buzzer?
Yes, you can finish the point,
or
but
am I cut off
just like dead?
Just done. Your
No,
mic's,
okay,
your
then
mic's
you can
muted.
make your
You're
point.
done.
Okay.
We're going to start with Steve on the Sharks, contender or pretender?
Okay, start off my point. I'm saying pretender. I'm going out on a limb with this one.
Ooh.
Only because of how tight this race is. If you look at it, Sharks, 64 points. Vancouver right behind them, 63 points. Calgary right behind them, 63 points. LA, 2-time in 4 years Stanley Cup champs, or 3 years, whatever it was. 60 points. I don't want to count those guys out. I'm saying Sharks choke at the end of the season. Pretenders, bing, boom, forget about it.
All right. And Connor?
Certainly contender. How can you count out the Sharks? The Sharks, this is Jumbo Joe. We got Little Joe, Joe Pavelski. Yes, but these are the Sharks. The Sharks we were talking about. Sure, they choke in the playoffs, but when was the last time they missed it? It's not about to start this year. These guys are amazing. They got loads of talent. Niemi, he can get it done. He's won a cup with Chicago. Certainly, this is not their year to miss the playoffs. Maybe in another few, but not this year.
Okay. Next team will be the Canucks. Steve, contender or pretender?
Again, pretender. I don't want to give it to the Canucks. I don't feel like they can. I don't feel like they deserve it. I feel like the Canucks are also going to have a late season choke, but not necessarily a late season choke. They're going to win 2 games, lose 1. Win 1, lose 1. But it's the Calgary Flames and the LA Kings that are going to surprise you. Have great last 20, 25 games of the season. Come in and boom, make the playoffs. That's why I choose Vancouver pretender.
And Connor?
I'm not going against you with this. I totally see Vancouver choking out. They are going to drop out, and they're going to drop hard. They have not had this late fall yet this season. Miller, he's getting up there in age. You look at the Sedin twins. They're not the same players they used to be. This team, they have loads of upload talent, but they're not quite the same team they used to be. They were down in the standings last year. They're going to fall back down. I totally see them missing the playoffs this year.
All right, Steve, what do you think about the Winnipeg Jets?
Winnipeg Jets, they're stealing a wild card slot. I'm saying contender. Winnipeg Jets, I feel like, with the Kane trade, they lose that premier score, but I think they're going to be fine. They're going to do well enough defensively, and they're still going to put pucks in the net. They're going to look to Andrew Ladd leading the way, Bufflin on D, bringing in Tyler Myers. How is Tyler Myers going to play in that situation? I think they're going to make it, but they're going to make a wild card slot.
Okay, Connor, what do you think about the
contender as well? It's this year for the Jets. Certainly, there's no question the Jets have the talent, especially on defense, and what wins you games towards the end of the season is defense. Bufflin, like you said, Ladd, these guys are going to lead the team. They got great leadership. Bufflin and Ladd both won a cup with Chicago. They know how to make to the playoffs. They know how to win. And Ride Hutchinson, while he's hot, the kid's amazing. He's going to make the playoffs.
Calgary Flames, I already kind of interlude to it with my Sharks and Vancouver piece. I think Calgary's going to make a late season push. I think they're going to win enough games to push them in. And I don't think they're going to make a wild card spot. I think they're actually going to make it in the Pacific Division. I think they're going to do well enough, and I think they're going to do better than the Sharks and Vancouver, especially with their third period play. They're a tough team to play against in the third period. It's going to win them the games to push them in.
Okay, Connor, what do you think about the Febuary Flames?
Well, I agree that the Calgary Flames are going to make the playoffs. I don't see them pushing for the third spot. I see them squeaking in by 2, maybe 1 points. They're right there, but I don't see them quite being mature enough to not have a little fallback in the last few games. I don't see them falling out of the standings, but I certainly see them maybe just going on a 3-4 game losing streak from here on in. They're going to make the playoffs, but just by the skin of their neck.
Steve, what do you think about the Minnesota Wild? Contender or pretender?
I think Minnesota's a pretender. I don't think Minnesota's going to make it. I just think it's too competitive right now, and I just feel like they just don't have... I don't know what it is. They just don't have something to me that says they're going to make this playoffs. The West is really tough to play in. I don't think they have enough. I don't know what it is, whether it be goaltending. You don't want to say they got bad defense just because they have Ryan Suter, who in of himself is one of the best D-men of all time. He's a great player. I just don't think they have enough to get through this hard West Coast.
Connor, what do you think about the Wild?
I agree, but there's no question that it's because of their goaltending. Dubnyk is not this good of a goalie to get this many shutouts within a few games. He had a great hot streak. He's going to cool back down. Darcy Kemper has shown that he can get it done in bursts. Not enough to make the playoffs. I completely 100% agree. They're going to miss the playoffs. They're going to miss it hard. I don't see them being anywhere close in a few weeks.
And so, Steve, what do you think about the Kings? I know you mentioned them earlier in your points.
Los Angeles. How can you count out the Stanley Cup champs? They're not having the best season ever, but I think they're going to do enough in these last 25 games to squeak in. They're going to make the wild card, but they're going to make the wild card and win the first round of the playoffs. And then after that first round, they're going to keep moving. I don't think they're going to win the cup again, but I think they can go, maybe conference finals. They might get stopped in the semis. Contender, for sure, not counting them out.
All right, Connor, what do you think about the Kings?
Like you said, you can't count the Kings out. They've won 2 Stanley Cups in the past 3 years. They now have Gaborik. The Quick has not played up to his expectations for this year. He's going to bounce back. He is. He's one of the best goalies in the league. And then Drew Doughty is going to lead this team fully into the playoffs. No question that the Kings are making this. They've got too much talent not to. You need Dustin Brown to step it up, but I think that the team together will make the playoffs.
Steve, what do you think about the Dallas Stars making it?
Dallas Stars, pretender. They got the firepower with Tyler Seguin, who's having a great season playing alongside of Jamie Benn. I just don't think they have enough. Connor mentioned it earlier. Kari Lettinen not playing the way he used to. They brought in Jonas Enroth as a backup. That's all Enroth is as a backup. It's not going to be enough to push them. Unless they make a huge deal at the deadline, I can't see them making the playoffs with 58 points in 54 games.
Connor, what do you think about the Dallas Stars?
Dallas is going to cut it close. They're not going to make it. We've already got our 4 teams here. We see them pretty close together. I don't see them making it, but I think they're going to push up the standings. They're going to push ahead of Minnesota. I just don't see them making it. They're going to build on for next year. They lack too much in defense. Their goaltending's been very poor. They can score a lot of goals with Benn and Seguin, but past that, they lack a lot of things. They're still a very, very young team, and give them a few years.
All right, so that concludes our contender or pretenders segment. Next thing we're going to talk about is the Las Vegas talks about having a team there and the overall expansion idea that the NHL now is moving towards. So, Steve, let's start with you. What are your thoughts on having a team in Las Vegas?
Love it. Absolutely love it. Los Angeles is a gambling city. What is it missing? A sports franchise. They don't have a single sports franchise. They have nothing in the MLB, nothing in the NFL, nothing in the NBA. Hockey. Hockey is going to do well in Las Vegas, mainly because Las Vegas brings in tourists. It's not like an Arizona or, like a Dallas where they don't have a lot of tourism. Canadians are going to go to Las Vegas to gamble and say, hey, I can catch a Las Vegas game while I'm here. Tickets aren't going to be ridiculous. I think they're going to be fairly priced because it is Vegas. Let's be real. They're going to want to make a profit. I think it's going to be fairly priced. And, I think I want this to happen. I truly want this to happen. But accompanied with bringing in a Vegas, you can't have 31 teams. Doesn't make sense.
You need another one.
You got to bring in another team. So that brings in the topic of which city does Bettman want to give an NHL team other than Las Vegas? He's been quick to shut down talks of Quebec City. He doesn't really want another team in Toronto, GTA area. Where else does he want to go?
I could see Seattle. They've been in contention for one for a while. Like, they want to get their team back there. They have success with whatever hockey club it is they have there now. It's surely on a lower scale.
It's in the WHL.
But it's still successful. And I feel there's a serious hockey market there. You got to look to the West, though, because there's those two spots there.
Exactly. I feel Seattle would be perfect, and I think they would create a great rivalry with Vancouver.
It'd be awesome to see.
You got U.S. versus Canada. They're so close to each other. Fans are going to want, hey, let's drive to Vancouver, fly to Vancouver for this game. Oh, let's drive or fly to Seattle. Let's make a weekend out of this. Saturday night hockey in Vancouver or in Seattle could be a big thing in the future.
Very well could be. I 100% agree. It could very well turn into like the next Battle of Ontario. They're very close in distance like that. I can't see
Northern states love hockey almost as much as Canadians love hockey.
And that's what we need. We need more northern hockey. Like you see Minnesota, they're diehard fans there.
Exactly.
It might as well be Canada in Minnesota. I truly see this succeeding in Las Vegas. Las Vegas. Only if they can get another team, because like you said, they can't have 31 teams.
But would the team not be better suited in the South because northern states and Canada already has the interest for hockey, so they are going to travel no matter what. But if we get the interest in the lower states...
No, it's too tough. It's really hard to make hockey big there unless the team is good. We've seen with LA, in my opinion, the only reason hockey is popular there, they had Wayne Gretzky for a while,
And then they fell off. And bandwagoners.
Hockey was no one.
I'm sorry to say not everybody's a bandwagoner for like in Los Angeles, but there's a lot of them out there, which isn't not always bad. It brings new fans to the game.
Yeah. You got to decide what team you're going to cheer for at some point, and a lot of people want to base that off success.
You don't want to cheer for a team that sucks.
I know. Look at us with the Leafs, right?
Yeah. It's tough. But, I think the NHL as a company would be way smarter to do one in Vegas, because that's like middle state. That's not too far south, but you got to get one in either northern states or another team in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a team in Saskatchewan. That's kind of west. They're lacking a team. Regina could definitely host a team.
Very well could. You put hockey anywhere in Canada except for maybe in the Yukon. People are going to watch.
Yeah.
Like,
it comes down to population. Regina is a big enough city where they could have an NHL team. So it depends on what they need to build to bring in an NHL team. I know they got a team based out of the WHL in Regina. It just depends if that WHL size arena could accommodate an NHL team or if they're going to build something bigger. If you were to ask me right now where we need to put an NHL franchise, how can you not friggin' say Quebec City?
Bring back the Nordiques.
How?
They need it. Like, they die for hockey there. You look at the Montreal fan base. You put a Quebec City team in there.
You get that rivalry going. That money, just pure money.
The Battle of Quebec.
Oh my god.
Yeah, they bring it back.
Yeah.
Like, it was huge back in the day.
5-game series during the regular season. Battle for Quebec. You have a winner.
Mm-hmm.
Quebec can create their own trophy for that mini series in
That's very, very true. They very well could.
Even that there, you can move that, and if you have success there in Quebec with that, you can move it to other places, like Battle of Alberta,
Ontario.
Battle of Ontario.
Yeah.
There's so many other places, like even Battle of Florida. It's Florida, but they still have Tampa Bay and Florida Panthers. Both.
Battle of New York.
Yeah, Battle of New. There's tons of places where you could do it.
It could be a very interesting thing.
Yeah.
I don't know how you talk about bringing a team to Vegas without thinking of Quebec, though.
Mm-hmm.
The Quebec Nordiques, for me, it's got to happen.
it raises the question, though, how are you going to get another team over to the West? After just doing this whole realignment a few years back, how are you going to get this all to make sense to the NHL, to the Players Association even? What if you're a team in the East, because it's going to be a team in the East that would move over to the West?
Yeah, who do you move?
I mean, which team wants to go to the Western Conference as it is right now?
It's more competitive.
It is
much more competitive.
Any team in the East has, at the start of the season, minus maybe Buffalo, had a serious shot at contending to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the Islanders. They're on top of the East. So who do you move? I mean, you just moved Detroit and Columbus over. Does that mean you move one back now? And how do you justify which one you go?
If we're looking at it points-wise, the East is doing just as well, if not better than the West. Atlantic Division, 74 points, 74 points, 71 points. That's your top three. Western
They play
Conference
against
Central, 80, 76, 70. Metropolitan, 73, 72, 69. 77, 64, 63.
They're equal.
Well, the points may be there. Eastern Conference teams face Eastern Conference teams more. Western Conference teams face West teams more.
That is true.
So you can't look at it just like that and tell me right now, who do you see out of the East winning a cup? Pittsburgh, maybe?
For the last couple of years, the prime candidates for winning the cup were most of the time in the West.
Yes.
Other than Boston.
Other than Boston,
it's been dominated by the West.
Agreed.
I'm not disagreeing with that at all. But it's not like the East is laying down.
No, they're gonna get to the Cup Finals, like some team from the East. That's how it works.
Yeah.
They're gonna get there. I mean, New York put up a fight. Like, they didn't go and get swept. It's not like the East is that bad compared to the West. 6 games sounds about right for a Western team. Maybe if an East team gets really lucky with hot goaltending, 7. I can't picture the Cup being raised in the East this year.
I don't think so either. We're gonna talk about our Cup picks later on, I believe. But at the end of the day, you gotta move one team back over if you're going in the East, or if you do, it works perfectly like this. Let's say we did, the Seattle or LA was one team, throw them in the Central Division. That rounds that out to 8, and Las Vegas.
There you go.
My bad. Throw them in the Central Division. That rounds that out to 8. And then throw Seattle in the Pacific Division, because regionally,
that makes sense.
That's where they belong.
It would make sense, yeah.
Seattle, in the sense of conference alignment, Seattle makes the most sense.
Mm-hmm.
Seattle or like a Saskatchewan, because then you can say, you know what? Pacific, Las Vegas, go Pacific, and Saskatchewan we'll call Central.
But then you look at the East, and like you see Tampa Bay and Florida in the same division as like all the teams from Ontario, and
a lot of it's the time zones.
Obviously.
The time zones play a big factor with it. I just can't see, as much as I would love to see a team in Quebec City.
I don't think it's gonna happen.
I can't see it happening anytime soon. There may be another one in the future, going maybe another 10 years ahead.
Maybe if one of the Florida teams tank financially.
Yep. I mean, you never know if Arizona. You never know if Arizona. Like, they changed their name, but they still got to make money, and they're not doing it. I mean, like you said, Florida gets like no traction unless like Leafs or Montreal are playing over like a March break or something. Yeah. So that's when they sell out.
So what if Arizona moves to Las Vegas, and then
that's interesting, but I don't see it happening.
I can't see that.
Mainly because Arizona's been given like another 3-4 years.
They'll probably bring in the Las Vegas team in before that.
Yeah, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen within, I want to say, the next 2 years.
2 to 3 years for Las Vegas.
Yeah. But that means that if it's going to happen, though, they got to have plans in another spot, and Seattle's my front runner right now just because of the alignment. That's the only reason.
Would work.
Yeah. And it'd be interesting to see 32 teams.
NFL's really got 32 teams. It works for them.
Mm-hmm.
Right now,
they do have a different setup though for the divisions.
Yeah,
it's
kind of similar to the old NHL style. Mm-hmm. NHL had 3 divisions per conference.
True.
So it's similar in that sense. But 8 teams. I just want to see the West. Thinking about the West being even more competitive than it already is a great thing to think about right now.
It's good for hockey.
You bring in two more teams to the West, that's adding 2 more teams to the mix that can put up a fight and be competitive.
Yep.
And it makes for great hockey.
And for the West, like, every team has to match the Chicagos, the St. Louis's. I mean, sure enough, LA's not there, but they've won the Cup 2 of the last 3 years, and they've making it into the playoffs with like 7th, 6th spot, right? They won it 2 years ago or 3 years ago, from the 8th seed.
Yeah.
Right? They're a playoff built team. And that's what a lot of the teams are doing. They're building up their center core. I mean, Anaheim went out and traded for Ryan Kessler. Mm-hmm. They went out and traded for him because they knew what they have to match up against to get anywhere.
And if you look at it, LA's got a great coach in Daryl Sutter.
They do.
He's been around hockey family. You know, he's got nephews, sons in the game, brothers, you know.
Everyone.
He's a guy built to coach and lead a team to success, and he's proven it in LA time and time again. And I think, you know, that's a big reason for me why he's going to crack this last spot. He's an experienced coach, you know, and he just knows how to get it done when it needs to get done.
Agreed.
All right, we'll move to our next segment, which is about the All-Star Weekend. What you guys, what your thoughts are on it? Has it lost its sort of luster, or is it?
Yeah. The All-Star Weekend, something needs to be on the line. I
was not impressed.
No, it's the All-Star competition, like the skills competition. It's fun to watch. Yeah, like maybe that one can remain fun, but the actual game, it's lackluster. Highest scoring game, and I didn't care. Right? It was just like
cared. It
was like, what, somebody got 6 points? Whoa, woo.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You know,
they can't see the goalies trying. Cause...
I think they need to really look to MLB, and it's a 7-game series. Sure enough, the President's Trophy winning team gets, or the highest rated or ranked team gets the home ice. But going back to a point from last segment, you're playing against East teams most of the time from the East, and you're playing against West teams most of the time from the West. Maybe if somehow they can convince it that you're not playing the same competition every single night, that there's something up for grabs, and you go back to the East versus West. Mm-hmm. The draft is fun. You get funny moments like Phil Kessel being traded for Tyler Seguin, which was a funny moment, don't get me wrong, but it's not meaningful.
Like, it needs to be, the All-Star Weekend's kind of just become like, hey, this is the fun
money
side of
grab.
hockey.
Money grab.
I was not impressed with Columbus being the host city for one reason and one reason only. They were booing Rick Nash.
Yeah, Rick Nash doesn't deserve to be booed. He did everything he possibly could, and for the team. Like, he was their captain. He led you to your very first playoff run ever. Surely they didn't win a game against Detroit, but he took him to the playoffs. He wanted to succeed in Columbus, but sometimes you got to trade away a star player to get other players. You can't just have one player. I mean, you look at that with like Kessel. He can't do it all himself, right? You got to have players around you, and he helped make them a good team. They struggled with injuries this year, but they are a good team.
Personally, I was not a fan of that. You know, he's the leading goal scorer in the NHL, does not deserve to be booed. You know, he helped New York. You know, he didn't have the greatest playoffs last year, no doubt, but he was a piece that helped New York make the Cup Finals.
Agreed. 100% agreed.
In my opinion, he is not a player that deserved to be booed.
And he's not a dirty player.
Exactly.
He's a class act.
Stand-up guy, you know.
Big power forward. He should be respected by the league, and for pretty much he is. Anywhere but Columbus, it seems like, and it shouldn't be that way.
And that personally and that god-awful cannon. Every time the home team scored, that
was
it didn't even seem like they were lackluster. They didn't care to set off the can, like, you know, or set off the goal horn. They're waiting like 2-3 seconds.
Everyone who was at that game did not care. Like, the players, the fans, coaches,
fans were not into
the goalies.
No. I want the fans to be like
holy crap!
You look on paper, that many goals, the highest scoring goal game or point.
No one cared.
No one cared. That says something.
Yeah.
If you had some sort of like
trophy, something that gave
yeah.
an edge, like an actual edge to the teams.
Yeah, like sure you can maybe keep the All-Star competition how it is.
Yeah, the skill
maybe do your drafting for the skills competition.
Yeah.
Like you can keep the draft because I know they like the draft.
Everyone loves the draft.
It's entertaining.
That's a fan winner.
Yeah.
For sure.
So if you did something along the lines of like keeping the draft for the skills competition, because you may want Ovi in that, but maybe come the East versus West game when there's something on the line.
But the only thing that I feel is how can you punish a team like, okay, let's say for argument's sake, Nashville makes the Cup Finals and they go up against anyone in the East. It doesn't even matter. Because of an all-star game, the East Coast team gets the home ice advantage. How can you punish Nashville for having such a great season like this?
There certainly would be ups and downs. But going back to the point that you might not be able to compare them, I mean, you can, but you can't at the same time because you are facing different series. What if, like, in the East, you have I think Leafs play Buffalo 5 times, or like Detroit plays Buffalo 5 times, right?
And you can do it that way.
What if they win all 5 games, right? Which most teams do against Buffalo. And they're going to start winning all 5 games against Toronto as well.
Yeah.
Like, but in the West, you got Edmonton and Arizona.
Other than that,
You're
maybe Colorado.
Maybe.
And Colorado can still go off at any point.
Oh yeah, they're a young offensive team. They found their stride last year, and then they just lost it this year.
Yep. I think everybody called it for Colorado, or at least saw a regress year. Yeah. A lot of sophomore years, so people regress. They overachieve in their rookie year. They regress in their second, become the player they really are in their third year. Look at Ryan Johansson, right?
Yeah.
He's in his is he 4th year now, or is this still his 3rd year? Either way, he's becoming quite a great player.
Yeah, a great asset for Columbus.
Yeah. So like, yes, you can look at it as punishment maybe, but it's going to give everybody the incentive to play hard at the All-Star game.
At the same time, you don't want people getting hurt.
That's another downfall, right? So they would have to outweigh the pros versus cons, see which one sticks out more, vote with like the Players Association, get all those things done, and see where your ball lies. You never know. Maybe teams want incentive to win.
Yeah, what do the teams want?
Yeah. So if the owners say, well, hey...
Sidney Crosby got fined because he faked an injury to miss the All-Star game.
Yeah, and it wasn't like...
But that's him. Like, that's... I don't think that should be a fine.
That just
shouldn't be a fine.
How the players...
see it. Like, they don't see it as, like, a weekend where they're not doing anything for their team.
Mm-hmm.
So, and whether you like it or not, the NHL is a business, and all these guys are employees. So they don't want to get hurt, and they still want to play. They want to have fun.
It's like going to like a Christmas party where everybody's making you do shots. You don't want, I don't know. Like, they don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Like, they really don't want to do it, and you got to give them some incentive to stick around for the All-Star game.
Yeah, for sure.
They could even have the All-Star weekend like the NFL does. It's literally the weekend before the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Like, so that it's completely out of the season. It does not matter. If someone gets hurt, they have like 3 months off.
Yeah, just don't let the 2 Stanley Cup teams have players in that.
Yeah, so long as the 2 teams that make... Like,
that's a really cool idea.
Why not? Because there's always that awkward break between rounds where it's like, okay, they're still trying to figure out the schedule and all this. Why not hold it in between the conference final and the Stanley Cup final? Throw it in there, and then you have your East and West.
And it's a nice, like, intro, You go from, like, you just played some hard playoff hockey, and you go out and have fun.
Then maybe that would make them, because they're missing the ice, maybe.
Yeah.
They want to get one last game in, like, a skills competition, have fun. You're eliminated from the playoffs, or maybe you didn't make them at all.
Yeah.
But you at least get to go out and have fun, while the other guys who are the final 2 in the league...
they get to go to work.
Yeah.
Like, because you want to put in the work to win that trophy.
Yeah.
So I think that would be the best bet. You don't need this they see this All-Star weekend as like a mid-season break. Like, you don't need that 5 days. Like, you don't need the 5 days or whatever it is, 4 days that they get off because
and like even teams on a big run, it's
you're
just
still practicing. Let's say your last game is Wednesday night. You have practice Thursday. You might still have practice on the Friday, and then Saturday's the skills competition. Mm-hmm. Friday night's the draft. Sunday's the game. Which personally, I want to talk about that. We need to switch it. The game should be on the Saturday night.
Agreed. Yeah,
Hockey
why is
night
it
in Canada? Saturday night.
Why was it on the Sunday?
And Pro Bowl Sunday too.
It didn't make sense this year. Like, I was watching it and I turned it on thinking, oh, this is the game tonight. No.
Why not do skills competition on the Friday?
Do they still have the rookie and sophomore?
NBA does. But,
okay. I didn't know.
NHL just has them in their rookie competitions, whatever.
Oh, okay. It's like a special thing. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, they're rookie all-stars.
I see.
Yep.
Okay.
People like Ekblad and Gaudreau got bumped up because of injuries this year, but they were originally rookie stars.
Oh, okay. Cool.
So that's the point that pissed me off the most. I was like,
it's hockey night in Canada.
Saturday night. What else do you think about? Sitting around the TV with your friends, your family, watching hockey. Not Sunday night. I don't watch hockey on Sunday night.
No, it seemed
have things
weird.
To do the next day.
Yeah. You don't want to get drunk with everybody on a Sunday night. Maybe that's why the All-Star game sucked, because we weren't drunk watching it.
Yeah.
Like,
I definitely would have enjoyed it a lot more.
That's probably it.
Huh.
I don't know. They got to do something. I don't know what. I'm not a big NHL honcho. I don't know what I'm talking about.
No.
So.
It's obviously making the money. They're going to continue to do it until it doesn't make the money.
All right, moving
moving on. Our last segment is the awards. All right, we're going to start off with the Vezina for best goalie, and I guess we'll just go around in the circle. So, Steve, you want to start with your pick for Vezina? Who you think is going to get it?
For me, it comes down to 2 goalies in mind. The Canadian Carey Price. This guy's a phenomenal goaltender. He's won gold medals. He's won, he hasn't won that Stanley Cup yet, but Montreal's getting close. I don't think they're going to do it this year. Montreal's getting close. But, for me, Vezina goes to Pekka Rinne.
Has to.
He's helping Nashville win hockey games. They have a 40-plus goal differential. You know why? Because they're not letting in goals. Their defense is unreal. And their goaltending. They only need to score 2-3 goals a game to win games. Mm-hmm. That is huge for your club when you don't need to score more than 3 goals a game to win. Which is why I'm saying Vezina goes to Pekka Rinne, hands down.
I can't argue that. Pekka Rinne has had a tremendous season. After being what was it? Was he hurt or was it surgery last season? I guess it's kind of the same thing. But
missed games last
season. He missed a bunch of games last season, and Nashville hurt badly because of it. Mm-hmm. They missed the playoffs because he wasn't there. He is an elite goalie. He is the top of the class, especially this year. The Vezina has to go to Rinne. There's no one else that can. Price, yes, he's having a great season, but Pekka Rinne is single-handedly taking them from a non-playoff team to playoff team. That is
cup contenders.
Yes, very much so.
I'm gonna change it up. I'm actually gonna say the Canadian Carey Price, only because, first off, save percentage. It's slightly higher. It's not that. It's like 0.003 higher or something. He's started 43 games, and 30 of those he has won.
That's huge.
That's a lot. He's reached the 30-goal plateau.
Yeah. And
30 win. 30 win.
30 win plateau, and there's still, 25 games left?
Yeah, Montreal.
He can reach 40.
He could easily reach 40.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Montreal has 28 games left.
Exactly. With that, and he also has the 4 shutouts, and his goals against average is 2 flat, which is
very good. No question, very good.
The only person who beats him is Rinne, who's his 1.99. It's literally, they're basically equivalent.
They are having a great competition this year. It's neck and neck. I just think the Canadians made the playoffs last year.
Yeah.
I think they're going to give it to Rinne.
Yeah. And it's also a comeback story. NHL loves comeback stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. So next we will talk about the Calder for Rookie of the Year. Steve.
I'm going back to Nashville. How do you count out
My fantasy boy.
Philip
Forsberg?
Yeah.
Dude is on fire. He's got like 50 points in 57 games, you know? He's lighting up the lamp. And what I love most about him is not only that is he putting pucks in the net, you know, he's passing the puck and other players are putting the puck in the net. He is defensively sound. Plus 28 on the season right now. Big numbers for a rookie. Huge numbers for a rookie. Philip Forsberg, hands down.
You can't look anywhere else. Maybe Aaron Ekblad might get a nod for a Calder vote here or there. But Philip Forsberg has taken over. He was
Taking the league by storm.
Yeah, I think he was like 7th over. He was in the top 10 pick by Washington, traded for Martin Erat. Think of how lopsided that trade is. You have Rookie of the Year.
Could you imagine
Philip Forsberg
playing with Ovechkin and Backstrom?
It would be filthy.
Huge.
One of the deadliest lines in the league. Instead, is in Nashville, and he is lighting up the lamp.
Back to GMs trying to make quick fixes.
It doesn't work. You can't make quick fixes. And at the time, even the trade didn't seem to make sense. Philip Forsberg, they never gave him a chance. And look what he's done when he's given a chance. Might I add, in Nashville, where there is no elite centerman, think of Backstrom. Ovechkin, Backstrom, Philip Forsberg.
All you have to do is carry the puck in the zone on Washington and go, oh my goodness, it's Alex Ovechkin. Throw him the puck. You know,
putting that
he's
puck
going
in
to
the
put
net.
pucks in the net.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's going to put pucks in the
And
net.
might I add, one of my best fantasy pickups I've ever had.
I'm gonna have to agree with both of you guys. I gotta give it to Forsberg. Just like you guys said, he is literally just lighting up the lamp for Nashville. Him and Rene together are just stealing the show entirely.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
So next award, I guess we'll do the Norris for top defender.
I'm going to seem super biased, but I am going back to Nashville.
Boom!
Again, like Connor said,
Triple threat.
This is a team last season who's not making the playoffs with a stand-up defenseman like Shea Weber. You know, it goes to show you with that defenseman and goaltending combo, you can win games in this NHL. You don't need to score that many goals. Giving it to Shea Weber, puts up big minutes, can put the puck in the
Amazing
net,
defenseman.
can lay the body. He's friggin' huge. Shea Weber, Norris Trophy.
All right, I'm finally going to disagree with what you said. An amazing season he's having, no doubts. I see someone like Giordano getting it. And main reason why, they always tend to go with a high-scoring defenseman. It always past have been, even though Giordano may not be the most well-rounded, he is one of the highest-scoring defensemen on a team that was considered to be well into a rebuild, not supposed to be anywhere near the playoffs. He's leading that team along with TJ Brody, forming one of the top defensive pairings in the league. Don't get me wrong, Weber and Yossi
You can't give
amazing.
it all to Nashville. You got to
You
give
can't.
it somewhere else.
Yeah, but, Giordano has having an amazing season. He's always been a great player, and he's just having a better one this year. I say you got to go to Giordano.
I'm gonna have to disagree with both of you.
Oh.
And I'm going to go with Doughty, and only on the condition that LA makes the playoffs. They are tight
Okay.
behind Calgary and Vancouver.
Yep.
And I think that if he can push them late in this season, the guy's at 32 points already in 54 games for a defenseman.
It's very good. It's very good.
very good.
He's got talent. That's for sure.
Yep. And I think that if they can push it and get into that wild card spot, I think that Doughty will definitely be a contributing factor to that, and I think
He will be a contributing factor if they make the playoffs.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it.
He will be.
Yeah.
And then you also got to consider playoff run. Right?
Yeah,
He can take over, and he's a treat to watch.
Yeah. All right, next thing we will do is the Selke.
Oh.
You're making me sound biased because I'm going back to Nashville. One more time. I'm giving this I'm giving this trophy to the rookie, Philip Forsberg.
Philip Forsberg.
Wow.
To the rookie.
Okay.
For a rookie forward who is not on that high scoring of a team. Like I said, Nashville, they're mainly defensive. They're putting pucks in the net, but not in huge totals. Giving it to Forsberg Plus 28 on the season right now.
Very good.
That is huge. I know plus minus isn't everything, but that is huge for a rookie.
Mm-hmm.
Huge. I think the league's going to notice this guy. They're going to want to credit him. You know, for rookies to do something like that, I feel like they need recognition. He may not be the best defensive player in the league. Like, there may be players better than him. You always got to think of Pavel Datsyuk when you're thinking of the Selke.
You do.
You know, you always got to think of players like that. But I just don't know how you don't look at this Nashville team as a whole and want to reward them. They deserve it. They've had a great season. They're gonna. I feel like they're gonna have a great playoff run. They could win it all.
If they have a great playoff run, I won't be so shocked with your choice of Philip Forsberg. To me though, you got to pick Patrice Bergeron. He is one of the best, if not the best, defensive forward in the game. All he does is play defensive, and he can contribute 20 goals a season. I know that's not what the award is for, but he is very well-rounded, and you can't find a better player to put in your own end to take those hard draws with 10 seconds left in the game when you're up by a goal. Patrice Bergeron is the best defensive forward in the game. I think it's his trophy to lose.
Okay, I'm going to disagree with both of you guys again. And I'm going to, like you said, Steve, you can't think of the Selke trophy and not think Pavel Datsyuk. Right off the start. The guy is one of the best, if not the best, two-way player in the game. Basically, he's just a demon on the back check. Like, even if you think you got the run straight to the net, he's right there. He's right behind you.
Takes the puck from you without you even knowing.
Yes,
exactly.
Always right around the top for takeaways.
Yep, and
he's
then
always top 3 for this trophy. Always.
And then once he takes that puck away, he has the speed and the hands to get around anyone and put that puck right in the back.
We saw
of the
it
net.
in a game against Nashville where he literally deked out their entire team and found a way to slip that puck through the net.
There's no question, Datsyuk, that's one of his trophies that he owns. And it's
like you said, it's his to lose.
Yeah. It's between Bergeron, Datsyuk, and there's always 3 votes. Could Philip Forsberg squeak in? Maybe. Could it be someone like Andre Palat? Who knows? Yeah. I think there's the 2 spots almost guaranteed.
This is the toughest trophy to award.
It is. Yeah. It's very tough.
Because there's not many statistics that back defensive play. There's plus minus, but there's other factors within plus minus.
Yeah.
You can't solely rely on that. You know, with goals, you know, you either have the most goals or you don't. With points, you either have the most points or you don't. You know, you're a leader on the team to win the MVP or you're not. That's what it comes down to.
All right. We're going to go to the Jack Adams.
Okay, this is a really, really tough one. But I'm going to Nashville. Peter Laviolette. It's gotta be him. He took the team from Barry Trotz, who was not a playoff team. Yes, they were injury-riddled, but he takes this team. He gets the most out of Philip Forsberg. He gets the most out of Mike Ribeiro, who was bought out of Arizona. He's taken this team and he's making them a Stanley Cup contender, might be even a favorite. They are so good and the future is so bright. Peter Laviolette, he's got to get the Jack Adams.
I'm going to have to go with Jack Capuano. Capuano? I don't know if that's how it's said, but I'm going to go with it. From the New York Islanders. The guy has literally just turned the team around. I mean, literally just look at where they are in the conference, and you can just see the success that this guy is having with the team that he has. He's putting the lines together perfectly. The team is performing the way they should be, and I can't see anyone else other than, like you said, Pierre Laviolette. That's my vote on that one. Steve?
I'm gonna go ahead and agree with Matt on this.
Oh,
straying away from Nashville. I feel like if you look at the beginning of I feel like if you look at the beginning of the season and someone had said to you, who's going to do better, Nashville or the Islanders, people say Nashville. I feel like at the beginning of the season, before preseason, they say Nashville is a more complete team and will go farther than the New York Islanders. If you had told me, as a hockey fan, that the New York Islanders are going to be in first place in their division,
it is crazy to see where they are. It is crazy.
I would be like, you're lying, and go back to the cave you live in because you clearly know nothing about nothing. But here we are talking about them. You know, they're having a great season. Halak, you know, if there's a top 5 for Vezina, Halak's got to be in the
He's
top
got to
4.
be in it. Yeah.
You know, he's got to be there. I don't know how you don't look at this team and go, wow. That's why I'm agreeing with Matt. Give the Islanders coach, Jack Capuano, the Adams.
So who would we say, because there's always 3 votes, who gets the third? It seems like the surprises of the league. Who would you, like, it's a tough choice, isn't it?
It is a really tough choice for me.
Like, Babcock's always up there.
For me,
but again,
but out of reputation.
Calgary's head coach.
Yeah,
They make
actually,
the
in all
playoffs.
honesty, because look at them last season. Where did they finish?
Like
That's very true.
Third last.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
They got Sam Bennett.
yeah, like
Yeah.
they
So
just
I
they
think
were,
he was the 3rd overall pick, was he not? Sam
Yes,
Bennett?
Sam
Yeah.
Bennett.
yeah,
So-
and now look where they are. They're fighting for a playoff position.
I think Horacek deserves it.
I think Randy
You
Carlisle.
lie. You
Randy
lie.
Yeah, honestly, just
Calgary's
looking-
got my number 3. If not,
Bob Hartley. That's his name,
Yeah,
I believe.
yeah,
Bob Hartley. Yeah.
just look, just
honestly, he could even win it if they make the playoffs, and depending how deep they go.
yeah.
It's a lot of it comes down to playoffs
Oh, yeah.
as well.
It's gonna
How
come
deep
down to
you
the
can-
playoffs.
Mhm.
I don't know. It's gonna happen.
I don't
Something's
know.
That's a very good top 3.
Things are gonna happen.
Some really good coaches in the league this year.
All right. Next, what we're doing is the Rocket Richard. Who do you guys think is going to score
Connor,
the
would you
most
like to go
goals?
first?
Yes, I
Tom?
think we've all probably got rough idea. Rick Nash, this is his season to lose. He has got 34 goals right now. He's on pace for something like 44 goals. It's an insane amount. He's power forward. He's not slowing down. This is his. I mean, I don't see anybody close taking it.
Okay, I'm gonna have to agree with you on that one because I can't see anyone else. Just looking at the stats right now, I think Nash is at 34. I mean, Ovi is very close behind, but again, I still see Nash taking it. And then after Ovi, there's like a 4-goal gap between those two, and then Seguin, Tarasenko, and Stamkos. So I can't see anyone but Nash taking this, in all honesty.
I'm gonna disagree with you guys.
Ooh.
I'm going Alexander Ovechkin.
Ovi.
This guy has been a premier scorer in the league.
No doubt.
I feel like this last 25 games of the season.
Did you just shot yourself?
Hey, I was trying to talk through it. You know, I was trying to save that.
Those two.
Can I continue?
You can continue.
And and
Capitals, as of right now, have 27 games left in the season. You want to know how many goals I think Ovi's going to get in that 27-game stretch? 15. He's going to get 15 goals, finish the season with 48. You know what? Scratch that. He's going to get 50. Ovi's going to hit the 50-goal mark. He's going to take this title from Rick Nash. I'm sorry, Rick Nash. Ovechkin's going to steal this.
you don't see Rick Nash. Okay, do you see a fight between the two, or you just see?
Oh yeah,
Ovi?
it's going to be tight. Rick Nash is going to get. I think Rick Nash will get at least 45. I think
Okay.
Rick Nash will get 45, and I think Ovi's going to get high 40s. 50,
Break. Might
or
break.
50,
Might break.
or 50.
Okay.
It's just Ovechkin's thing. You know, he's going to get on the power play. He's going to get one. He's going to have a game where he's going to get 2 goals. You know, he may even get a hat trick in this last little bit, and that's going to help him out a lot. I feel like he's going to take this away from Rick Nash, who's been in the league for goals for almost the entire season.
Yeah.
You know, he's been there. He's been producing at a ridiculous pace. I just feel like Ovi's kind of been less talked about this season. It's more been the uprising of Rick Nash.
Doesn't really have.
I feel like Ovechkin's going to come in.
And Ovechkin really doesn't have that power. Like, sorry, not the power. The pressure on him.
Yeah.
Whereas, like you said, Nash has been there the whole season. He has everyone looking at him.
you know,
Okay, win this award. Come on. Like, get the most goals.
I truly think Ovechkin's going to come up, and it's going to help Washington in their playoff picture.
It's going to be a very tight race. A
It's-
very tight race. And best for us hockey fans.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
All right. The second to last. The Art Ross for most points. Who do you think's going to win? Who wants to start this off? Want me to start it off?
Yeah.
All right.
You start it.
I personally think that it will be Tyler Seguin. Because if you look right now, top 5 for goals and points, see Seguin in second place with 59 points, in third place for goals. That means that he has 29 goals, 30 assists. The guy's basically getting 1 for 1 on that. So every time he gets one of them, he's gonna get the other.
Playing alongside a James.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that helps.
yeah,
that helps a
exactly.
lot.
He's playing alongside JB Benn. I can't see how he will not continue on this pace, especially like you guys said with Jamie Benn right beside him. I have to give this to Seguin.
All right. I like that, but I'm gonna go with Patty Kane.
Ooh.
I feel like Patty Kane is having a bounce back season.
After not getting even 30 goals.
Like you said earlier, didn't get 30 goals. He's sitting at 62 points right now. That's huge.
It's a big
for
buffer.
him.
Big buffer.
It's huge for him. He's got the best captain in the league playing alongside.
No doubt.
He's got one of the best teams in the league, and the guy can just score from anywhere.
If he wants to put the puck in the net, he's gonna do it.
He's gonna do a spin around a backhand. He's gonna shelf it on your goalie. He's gonna drop it, and friggin' Taze is going to put one in the back of the net.
Exactly.
He's going to throw it to the point, and Seabrook or Keith is going to blast one
He is
home.
just going to generate
points.
He's
going to rack up points at the end of the season.
No question.
And it's going to do nothing but help Chicago maintain that third, maybe even grab second spot in their division.
I like it.
Very, very, very solid choice. But Boston, eat your heart out. Tyler Seguin's year is this year. It's got to be him. He has been up around the top the whole year. He's been very, very consistent.
Connor's just like talking. You're like, I'm like. That's fun.
Okay, go.
And. God damn it, Connor's supposed to start talking.
I don't know how to react to that. No question that it is Tyler Seguin's year. He's been up near the top the whole time. He's been very, very consistent. He has Jamie Benn to play alongside with. I feel he's going to, in this final playoff push, he's going to take over and he's going to help make that team be the best it possibly can. Not make the playoffs, but he's going to win the scoring title.
I like it. Okay. So we're coming back to the final award for the MVP. So, there's two ways we can do this. We can do how we did all the other awards, or we can each name our top three.
I like
top three.
Top three.
Top three.
For me, I don't think I can narrow it down to one single person that I think could.
I know. I left this one blank.
Yeah,
okay.
same. It's the only one I left blank when I was thinking this through.
It's a tough call.
Okay.
So. All right. Well, I didn't have a top three. I had a top one.
Okay. Okay.
I can see Pekka Rinne being the very first goalie since Dominik Hasek to win the Hart. He is the MVP of Nashville. He is winning them games single-handedly. The game the other night against Winnipeg, he was unreal, and that isn't uncommon for him. He is leading the league in save percentage and goals against average for starting goaltenders. He is unreal, and I think he has a serious shot at being the MVP, going from a team that was out of playoff contention because he was gone. And this helps that he was gone last year. That showed they missed the playoffs. And now he's back better than ever, and they're sitting atop the Western Conference. Pekka Rinne is my number one.
All right, I like it. Pekka Rinne makes my number three. I feel like it's going to be very hard for the league to want to give this to a goaltender. I don't know why. I just feel like that's the way the league feels about this trophy.
Yes.
I'm not saying he does not deserve it because, like Connor has said, he's having a great year. He's putting up saves left, right, and center. He's a friggin' brick wall out there. So he gets my number three. My number two has got to go to the silent assassin, Jonathan Toews. This guy is a friggin' leader. He's not going to always put up the most points, but he is a leader. And the MVP, yeah, you want someone who's high points. Jonathan Toews is going to give you close to a point a game, but he's leading your team. He doesn't make that many mistakes
Captain
defensively.
serious.
He doesn't make that many mistakes defensively. He comes back defensively. He wins draws. He's a number one center that can kill penalties like crazy. And he's still going to find the back of the net. His fair share of goals. But
Number one?
my number one, and I feel like he's only going to do this because of the type of season he's having in Dallas, and that is Tyler Seguin. I believe Tyler Seguin
It's a very
has
strong
the potential
candidate.
to win the MVP, especially if he can help Dallas move into the playoffs. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, but if he puts up enough points at the end of the season, and let's say he does win the points total, as I already said, I think Kane is going to. But let's say Seguin does, that only pushes the envelope more for him to win this MVP. And coming from Boston, where, you know, he was putting up a bit of points, but, you know,
Never given the right role. Like
it's Boston. They don't know how to play guys with his size and skill. They just don't. They don't like to for some weird reason. But it works.
They love to trade away stars.
It works for them. It works for them, you know? But he is having the type of season Dallas knew he could, playing alongside of Jamie Benn. He could win the Hart.
All right. My 3, I'm going to start with, first off, we're going to say my number 4. I'm going to have to give to Febuary.
Oh, number 4. Wow.
Only because it's not really number 4. It's more like a tie for 3rd. And I'm going to have to give the tie to Rene and Price because they are that good and they are stealing games for their respective teams.
First in their divisions for both clubs.
And, like, they are so close. There's nothing you can, like, there's nothing really to separate them. So I'm going to have to give them a tie for 3rd. But again, as you said, I can't see the league giving it to a goalie. They have their own award. It's difficult for the league to give it to a goalie. My number 2, I'm going to give to Patty Kane, just because of the way he's turned around his season and the way he's contributing so many points for his team as a whole. And
people thought he was going to get paid what he's getting paid and then stop playing.
Yeah.
That's what people thought. Because that's
Hey, they had the right to think that as of last year.
Yeah,
that's
last year.
what you get, though. Look at Eric Stahl. Look at what he's making.
He
stopped
stopped.
playing.
He just stopped. He was like, okay, I made an...
People counted this. They didn't count him out, but they just thought, you know, he's going to be a 60, 70-point getter.
And I love the way he's playing this season, leading the league by like 3 points right now. But my number 1, I'm going to have to agree with you, Steve, is Tyler Seguin. I just love the way he's playing against Jamie Benn. Not against, with Jamie Benn. And that duo right there is just, I have to give it to Tyler Seguin.
Yeah. So many players deserving.
So many great players this year.
This is the toughest trophy to give to because, again, it's not necessarily backed by statistics. That's going to help you in, like, getting votes, but it is not, like, confirming it. Like, having the most points does not mean you're the MVP of your team.
Well, think about this. When was the last time we had a Hart, like, contention didn't even mention Sidney Crosby?
Yeah.
But
that's how many great players there are in the league now.
You want to, because Sidney Crosby is more than a point a game right now. You know, he's missed a few games this season. If he didn't, I believe he would be in the top 3 for points. But
and that's awesome to think about for hockey. It's great to see all these other players, like young players too, coming up, or players that used to be really good that are making a resurgence in their career, like Rick Nash. It is great to see. It's great for the game. And it's why this is probably one of the most competitive years there's been in a long time.
Oh, yeah.
It's a great year.
It's been awesome hockey all the way around.
It's been a great season to be a fan.
Yep.
All right. Well, that concludes this podcast, which we don't have a name for yet. Yeah. So this is Matt, Steven, and Conman167.
Signing off.
Signing off.